Hi there, my name is Evan Cohen, Product Manager for UiPath Apps. Today I'm going to be walking you through the creation of your first app using App Studio, now available in public preview. Before we get started, let's take a quick look at the process we'll be using in our app. This process automates data entry into a legacy financial system. The process has three input arguments: price, quantity, and fees. It takes those inputs, enters them into the legacy system, and then extracts and returns the unique account and transaction IDs associated with that order. Before we continue, please make sure you've downloaded the sample process included in this tutorial, published it to Orchestrator, and make sure it's available on your attended robot. Go ahead and pause this video and come back once you're done. Once you've published your process to Orchestrator and made sure it's available on your attended robot, we can begin. Go to your Automation Cloud homepage, and then click on Apps. To create a new app, simply click Create New. Let's call this My First App. Welcome to App Studio. This is where you'll be able to create dynamic, engaging experiences for your processes. Now follow along, but remember, you can always rewind. To get started, let's first add the process that we published to Orchestrator earlier. I'll click on this plus and click Add Process. Next, I'll be prompted to select an orchestrator from a list of those available to me. I'll select Demo and click Next. I'll choose the folder that I've published the process into, and then I'll select the process. Here we can see the inputs and outputs of that process. Great. Now I'll go back to my main page so I can begin designing the end user experience. I'm going to move this container into the center of the screen and make it a little bit taller, simply by clicking and dragging. Next, I'll open up the Add Controls pane and add my first control. I'm going to add a header, so I'll expand the display category and click and drag the header to the canvas. The blue line tells me where the control will be added. I'll put my cursor in the text field and rename it to My First App. Then I'll go to the styling pane and center it. I'll open the styling shortcuts and choose Headline 1. Now, I'll want to begin adding controls that will allow me to provide input to my process. So I'll go back to the Add Controls panel, click Keep this panel open, and begin dragging some controls. So you'll remember that the inputs of our process were price, quantity, and fees. For the sake of simplicity, we'll just provide inputs for the first two, price and quantity. I want two text boxes for that, and I also want some labels, so the end user knows what each of those text boxes mean. So I'll click and drag a label, expand the input category, add a text box, another label, and another text box. Now, I want to add a button that will actually allow us to run the process, and finally a label to visualize the transaction ID that comes back as a result. I'll close my Add Controls panel and begin adding some text to these labels. I'll say there price and quantity. I'll change my button text to say order, and I'm going to leave no text in this label. You'll see why in a second. Now I'm going to associate these text boxes with those specific process inputs. I'm going to select the text box, go to their value binding field, expand the process that I want them to be inputs for, and then click and drag. So that's the price. I'll do the same thing for the quantity. If you ever have trouble selecting controls from the canvas, you can select them and reorder them from the tree view. Now that the control that I want to have associated with the transaction ID output is selected, I'll do its value binding. Now it's time to start adding some events to our app. So I'm going to select the Order button, go to the Events tab, and then click Create Rule. When this button is clicked, I want to start a process, so I'll use that rule. It's asking me what process I want to start, so I'll click and drag my process to the rule. Once I select a process, I'm provided with customization options for the end user experience while this process is running. We'll leave these as their defaults. Now that we've added this event, it's time to preview our app. Click on Preview, and your app will open up in a new tab. I'll fill out the price, quantity, and click Order. My process will begin running, the legacy application will open, the data will be entered, and the results will be returned. Congratulations! You just finished your first UiPath app. From all of us on the UiPath Apps team, thank you for your participation and feedback in the app's public preview.
Reboot!